Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Elsie, editor for World Aviation Festival, and today I am joined by Jake Bengtson, Vice President of AI Solutions at Striim. It's lovely to have you here with us today, Jake.
Thank you.
So obviously AI, a really big conversation starter at this year's World Aviation Festival. So at the moment, do you think the hype has gotten too much? Are companies in aviation just deploying AI for the sake of AI? Or are there more meaningful use cases to be found?
Yeah, I wouldn't say the hype is too much. I think we're still on the precipice of figuring out how to really apply AI. There was actually a research report that came out recently by a group from MIT, and they're looking at how many organizations have actually been successful in releasing like custom-built AI as opposed to just implementing like a general large language model, like a chatbot. And so they found that there's this, what they call the Gen AI divide. It's very hard right now for organizations to create like a specific solution when they're creating like a fine-tune or customizing a model to do something specifically, but there still is a lot of success with those general models. And so I was looking at what is really limiting organizations, and they call it the Gen AI divide between these open, very large and general models to a specific solution. And part of that, they looked at like a few different things, memory, some issues, but a big part of it is just enabling models with the right context at the right time. Gen AI is tricky because everything seems reasonable, the answers that it gives you. I think everyone has had that experience of I asked ChatGPT something and it gave me a reasonable answer, but then actually it turns out it's not true. And the same is true in the enterprise context. So the trick right now that everyone is trying to really understand is how can I get the right context to my models at the right time to make sure you can ground it in the truth that you have within your enterprise.
Okay. And in terms of sort of obviously creating a sort of specific AI model, no easy task. And in the aviation industry, there's also sort of legacy systems, various sort of data possibly in silos elsewhere. How can we sort of create a strong foundation and deploy AI successfully and overcome these sort of traditional challenges that have inhibited aviation?
Yeah, I think first is just recognizing that AI in your, yes, you have legacy systems, it's probably lots of different places, but there's so much value in that data, and to not look at it as a hindrance, like, oh no, I have this data everywhere, but just, it's an opportunity. If you can figure out how to unify that data, that's really where your differentiation is held. I think like ever since the big data craze in the 2010s when people talked about data is the new oil, but I think it's really true now because what we're trying to power with that oil is AI. And so bringing that data together, if you can do that in the right way, you can find true differentiation from your competitors because LLMs, generative AI, everyone kind of has the same access to the same AI. And our ability to be able to differentiate is by bringing together your data and adding that in as context.
Perfect. And obviously, apart from sort of creating, making use of those data foundations, what else needs to change for AI deployment to be properly impactful to both, airlines, airports, and also the customers that use them?
Yeah, I would say, bring that data together, but really adding in that context in real time. And so it's one thing to be able to say, I have all these data sources and I have these, what we call agents, right, that want to be able to use these data sources. But if they're getting copies of that data that is a week old, you're not going to have a really robust solution. I think that's kind of the last mile that everyone's trying to figure out is how I create that real-time data integration between my AI and all my different source systems. And that's really I'd say like the low-hanging fruit for people to solve. At Striim, that's what we're focused on is real-time data integration. We're trying to liberate data from all these different silos, but doing it in real time so AI can act in the right way at the right time.
I wanted to ask as well, you spoke earlier about moving away from sort of generic large language models and towards sort of specialized use cases. What sort of needs to change for that adoption to take place? How can you sort of implement a specialized solution effectively and create one that's properly targeted to a specific goal and customer service?
Yeah, there's a few different methodologies. Like people talk about fine-tuning models. So that's taking an existing large language model and you're changing some of the parameters on it so you can make you can really show the model an example of like, this is the inputs and the outputs. This is the inputs that you'll receive. This is the outputs and how you want to act. And there's been a lot of research around how you can actually boost the performance of very small language models to outperform large language models for specific tasks if you follow that fine-tuning methodology. So fine-tuning is one of the ways to do that. There's a lot of documentation out there, but the actual process of doing that and doing it correctly and building in like, how do we evaluate to make sure this works? I think we're still a little immature within that space. And there's a lot of exciting research that's happening within it. So you can take that route of actually customizing the model, or you can take more of the retrieval augmented generation route, or RAG, that everyone talks about. So this is taking your knowledge store that you have, putting it in a vector store. And when you ask a large language model a question, you actually build your app so it checks in that vector store first to see if there's any information that's similar to the question, and then provides that as context to the model in real time. The advantage of doing that is that I don't have to do any like retraining a model or anything. I'm just building my application in a certain way to be able to do that. But also, you're now putting trust in that vector store that all the information in there is exactly accurate, because it overrides the knowledge of the large language model. So with that one as well, there's some risks that go into putting that in place. So really, it's a matter of going through and experimenting with things. I think more and more we'll see organizations just learn how to better evaluate the models for their specific use cases. A lot of the pressure is top down, like your VP, your CEO is saying we have to do AI right now, and then so it's like, okay, I don't know, let's put AI into this without much of a thought of like the exact use case we want to do and what is actually the right way to do that for this. And so I think it's just a little bit of a learning that we're in now, and people will get better and better with it as we figure out what are the right use cases and the right models to use those at the right time.
Perfect. Very useful insights there. So
yeah.
Thank you very much for sharing with us.
Perfect.
Thank you.